Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the ALTTP NMG speedrun tutorial. In this episode we are going to cover a number of topics. I'm going to do an overview of the following game mechanics first so we can focus on the run without the lengthy explanations. We're going to look at manual stairs, drop packs, damage boost mechanics, sprite manipulation, and bow mechanics. Manual staircases are very strange. For a game made in the 90s, there's a lot of attention to detail. You will walk slower while moving up and down staircases, just like in real life. Luckily for us, there are many ways of dealing with them that don't take their inspiration from real life, thankfully. Most manual stairs are one link width, which is apparently a standard unit of measure in the Kingdom of Hyrule. This means in most cases we can use double pumping to speed up Link's movement. For the most part, while we will be going upstairs, we can hold left and up and use the right direction for pumping. This will do a double pump, which will allow us to move faster than simply walking up the stairs. Drop packs refer to items that enemies will drop when they are killed. The ALTTP speedrunning wiki has a table with all the enemies and what they drop when they are killed, as well as the % chance they have of dropping an item. This early in the game we don't need to worry about drops too much. However, there are a couple enemies we will be interested in early on, so we know what things will drop that will help us speed up segments. Later on, this knowledge will help us plan drops that we will want later on in the run. It's not absolutely essential that you know these drops, but it's helpful knowledge, especially if things go wrong. Spoiler alert, it almost never goes right. But more on that later. I mentioned damage boosts in the last video and decided not to explain it. We don't use it a lot, but there are a few instances where we want to abuse this mechanic. Damage boost exists in most speedruns. Those familiar with the Metroid series know what I'm talking about. For us, it's important to know that when Link gets hit, he is pushed back in the opposite direction he is facing and starts flashing. No, not like that. He becomes translucent. The game does this by displaying Link's sprite every other frame. This causes him to flash, which indicates that you can't take damage. We will use this in Eastern Palace for a fairly large time-saving trick that we will get into later on. There are certain elements to the game that are controlled by our position. Just for clarification, sprites are all interactable objects in the game. Link is a sprite, enemies are sprites, stones and bushes are sprites, you get the idea. Some enemies will or will not spawn depending on our movement. There are also enemies that move when we move. We can use these game mechanics to our advantage and can save a little time by abusing these mechanics. The bow, which we get in this split, has some strange properties. There are two parts to the way the bow works. There is the drawback animation before you shoot the arrow, which will freeze Link in place. We will use this to our advantage later, but be aware there's a small delay between the button press and the arrow starting to fly. Arrows are like the Highlander, there can only be one. By which I mean, there can only be one arrow in the air at one time, so no Robin Hood shenanigans like hitting an arrow into another arrow to change its direction. They thought of everything, so while an arrow is in flight on the screen you will be unable to fire another arrow. So basically don't miss. You will, and that's okay, because that leads to another topic I neglected to talk about in the first segment. Okay, backup strats are when things have gone wrong and you need to fix it before you die or lose too much time. I should have talked about this in the last video, but it was getting a little long and I honestly couldn't find a nice organic place to talk about this. If you mess up a trick, you will need a backup plan. Part of speedrunning is adjusting to whatever situation you are faced with. In this example, we are going to mess up the first key guard in the Hyrule Castle. If you don't know how to adjust, you will lose time. Do your best to adjust to the situation and kill the guard as quickly as possible. Best thing to do is just use sword slashes. Don't panic, and don't try to reset up the trick by leaving the room, which would be a massive waste of time. Resets. Anyone familiar with speedrunning knows what I'm going to say. Resets are a part of speedrunning. In your first few runs, you will likely not reset as you were just looking to set a time, so you have a benchmark for what you can accomplish and just make improvements from there. I recommend watching your gameplay back to see where your longest splits are and just practice that segment before putting in another run. A reset will happen if you mess something up so badly there's absolutely no way to salvage the run. For example, a typical high roll is about 6 to 7 minutes. If you die to the ball and chain guard, you're looking at 3 minutes time loss. If you died to a bunch of bosses later on in your run, and you think you can make up for that mistake, keep going. If you just rolled out of bed the wrong way and you have a deathless run that you're comparing against, this will be a reset. When this happens, you simply reset the game, delete your old file, and start a new one. As far as I'm concerned, if you're just starting out, you should never really reset. It's ultimately up to you, but practice is practice for me. There's no such thing as a bad experience. It will teach you what to watch for next time. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's pick up where we left off. We'll start from the most common split, when we return Zelda to the Sanctuary. Here we'll talk to the priest and hold down on the D-pad. Since this split has some risky strategies, it's recommended for new runners to open the chest. It only loses about 4 seconds to pick it up, and it's not really all that bad to pick it up here. Leave the sanctuary and walk down, and then head to the right, making sure to stay above the path, so you can sneak past the guard on the next screen. Once past the graveyard, move up slightly so you're out of the way of the tree on the next screen, and move diagonally down to the right. Go across the bridge and start heading south, walking diagonally down to the left to follow the walls here. Oh, hi there RNG. I wasn't expecting you so soon. This screen is very RNG heavy, and will basically require you to react to whatever these Octoroks and their stones throw at you. You will want to stay more right than left on this screen to be positioned closer to our destination. Once you pass the Octorok screen, head over to the right, and then go up. You will want to boomerang the Octorok in our way and double pump up the stairs. Just a quick reminder here, double pumping can be achieved by holding up and left and tapping the right direction to move faster. Head north and there will be a statue and an Octorok in our way. The statue will come to life when we stand too close to him. You can either take a hit here and walk past him while Link is flashing, or you can face down as he activates and hold out your sword. Enemies also have iframes. These are invulnerability frames, and this can be abused to walk through them. The Octorok can get in our way here as well, so if you have the chance, stun him with the boomerang before activating the statue, or just kill him. If neither of these are an option, try to get past the Armo statue, since they do less damage, and then head over to the right, jump off the ledge. Double pump up the staircase, walk past the Armo statue, and double pump up the stairs. If you are fast enough here, you can walk by the blue guard without him seeing you. If not, just boomerang him, and walk up the stairs and head inside Eastern Palace. Once inside, go north, pick up the pot, hit the switch underneath the pot to open the door. In this room, hit the switch on the floor and walk to the left to walk around the enemies. In this room we have our first set of options. There is a chest in this room with some money. At this point in the run we really aren't concerned with money yet, however if you are new, you will want to grab this money now. The fastest way to do this is just avoid the cannonballs, walk around, and get the chest. Jump off the ledge and avoid the cannonballs again. If you do this fast enough, you will miss the big balls that come. This money is earmarked for our first safety item of the game, the bottle, which we will get in the next split. This assumes you are getting 2 bottles in the village. If you don't think you will need 2 fairies or potions, you can skip this money. The next room is simple. We pump up heading up, and pump along the top rail. Pick up the bottom pot if you need health, but it's slightly faster to pick up the top pot. Avoid the Stalfos, the skeletons, in this room, and head to the next room. This is the first sprite manipulation of the run. Here we walk a very specific path in order to despawn 2 of the enemies. I will show you this room as it will be approached casually. Normally there are 4 Stalfos that spawn in. This is just plain slow. By walking up first and picking up the pot, going left, down, and standing roughly in this position, we can force the game to spawn only 2 Stalfos. I'm going to do this slow to show that you can do this at a slow pace and still get the job done. The trigger in this room is fairly small. By standing just about where the skull is on the ground, we can force the top and bottom Stalfos not to spawn in. The other important thing to note is that the Stalfos can be killed before they fully appear. This means that we can throw pots at the air and it will kill them. Let's see how this room looks with some practice. There's a good chance there will be a small magic drop by one of the 2 Stalfos that we kill. You will want to collect it to save time in the post-boss cutscene. Follow the path and skip the chest in this room. It's the compass, and we don't need it. Keep heading right and ignore the big chest for now. If you need more health, there is a heart pot here, but we normally only grab the top pot for arrows. We only need 18 arrows for the boss of this dungeon, but we stock up whenever we can, since we will need a few arrows later on. Your max capacity is 30 arrows. Go through the door and head south. In this room, I like to kill the popos since they drop money, and I like to try to have at least 20 rupees when I leave this dungeon. Step on the floor switch and go to the right. There is a heart under the pot above us if you need it, and the key is in the back. Avoid the Stalfos as best you can and head over to the door. Kill the second popo in your way and go through the locked door. Here you can double pump along the catwalk in certain places since it's only a tile wide. This next room has 2 strategies. The first strategy is you kill all the enemies in the room, and the pot guarded by the anti-fairies will be available as the anti-fairies scatter. The fastest way to do this is to kill the green Igor with the pot when he starts moving. The popos die to a sword slash, and the Stalfos need a spin or 2 slashes to kill. Both pots have hearts, so you can heal here if you need to. Don't worry too much as there's a ton of health in this dungeon. Pick up the pot in the center and hit the switch to spawn the chest containing the big key. Spam L and R, and then go through the locked door to the north. The second strategy is to damage boost off the popo to pick up the pot while Link's iframes are active. This is a relatively tight window, and you don't have many chances to retry if you fail this trick in a run. Ideally, you only lose 1.5 hearts here. The backup if you miss to pick up the pot is to pick up some health, and damage boost off the anti-fairies. This does more damage, and you will need at least 3 hearts to pull this off. If you don't have enough health, just kill everything and do the room normally. This is why I recommend getting the Sank Heart, so that you have more health to work with. Get the big key, spam L and R just like before, and leave heading north. Go up the hall, push the block on the right, and head to the right. Go down, pick up both pots for 10 arrows. You should now have 15. Open the chest for the bow and spam L and R. If you need more health, just jump off the ledge at the top of the stairs and this will take you to a fairy room. You will be warped back into the big chest room here. Switch to your bow and go north through the door. Once through, you can either kill 2 popos on the way to the right wall, or just walk straight to the right and activate the right Igor. Shoot him with an arrow and pick up the key, head left, pick up the pot, and go through the door. In this room, picking up the right pot, then the left pot, then the bottom left pot. You will never take damage in your room if you do it this way. There is a slightly faster way to do this room, but I like having the extra ammo for the bow just in case. In this room, you will need to line up right here. Walk left, which will allow us to hit the switch without having to kill anything in this room. In this room, you will be shot with a bunch of cannonballs. You need to react to whatever this room gives you and head towards the top left switch to unlock the door. In this room, walk straight left and turn down when the Stalfos stops to hit him with an arrow. Pick up the pot with the arrows under it, the right one, and kill the other Stalfos, or put an arrow in him, whichever is easier for you. Wake up the red Igor and hit him with 2 arrows. You can also pick up the other pot which has some health under it. Turn to the left or to the right and charge your sword before going north. We face to the left or the right, since the door can close as you walk through it and cancel your sword charge. Walk straight up into this room until you are in the center of the popos, release your sword spin, and you should get all of them. This part requires a little practice. You need to stand just to the left of the middle of the Igors here to activate them both. You can do this any way you want, but I find the easiest way is to shoot the left one first, put 2 arrows in the right, and 1 in the final one. Red Igors will drop arrows sometimes, so you may not need to restock here. But there are a bunch of arrows and hearts in this room if you need them. I've seen variations where you can alternate between the 2 Igors going left, right, or right, left. As far as I can tell, it takes about the same amount of time either way. Alright, boss time. The boss has a bunch of different setups, and I've seen this done a number of ways. I'm going to show you the 2 most common quick kills we use for the boss. The first is the most common strategy. You'll see this most often when watching randomizer players. There are harder strats, but the time save is pretty negligible. For the first strat, we want to stand in the upper right of the screen, and we want to be somewhat close to the Armos to our left. Timing the first shot is difficult to get down, but once you do it, it will become easier. You'll want to shoot 5 arrows to the right. This will kill one of the Armos and put 2 in the second one. We do this setup so we can kill him before he turns red and his health is reset. As soon as you've fired the 5th arrow, you will want to move to the left. Visually, you want to be between the 2nd and 3rd floor tile or at the edge of the Cobra wall decoration. You'll want to start firing downward and start slowly moving down and then down right as you kill off the knights. This will put you in the perfect position to kill off the last knight. If you mess this up, the backup is to keep your cool and just deal with the knights as best you can. Don't get discouraged. It took me a long time to be able to do this fight consistently, and I still get it wrong all the time. The second method is to stand in the bottom right hand corner. Fire 2 arrows up and then 2 arrows to the left. Turn back north and start firing arrows as you move up to the top of the screen, then start firing left and keep moving slowly as you shoot the arrows. This should kill all the knights. This is a good strat to practice, as we will use the exact same setup near the end of the run when we see Armos for the second time. These strats are both pretty quick, but do take some practice to get right. Once you kill all of the knights, grab the heart and move to the center of the room and charge your sword, facing up. You want the tip of your charged sword to make contact with the bottom of the shadow from the falling pendant. This will let you pick it up before it hits the ground. There's only one text box here, so mash L and R to get through it. Link will triumphantly swing his sword, and there will be a ding when he gets the sword above his head. That audio cue is the best time to split your timer, since that happens with every boss fight. That's the end of this episode. In the next episode we will get the boots, which will sadly bring an end to most of the pumping we will need to do. We talk about safeties as well, and ammo management, as well as some route divergence. I will show you the fastest way to get through the segment, but also point out where you can safely get some safety items, as well as some optional items to make the run a little easier or safer. I want to thank Hacksaw for helping me through my talking points so I don't forget anything major. A link to his Twitch channel is in the description below if you want to show him some love and give him a follow. I also want to thank Rabbit Blue Jay for making the thumbnail for this series, and a link to his channel is in the description below as well. If you enjoyed this video, you can show your support by subscribing and hitting the like button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.